This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Here it comes, everything's ready. Yeah, hi everybody. It is the After Party Live on a Hide in Your Cave Monday. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you waiting and the patience. I thought it was a great Mark Thompson show today, and we're going to have another great one tomorrow. Michael Schur will be back in the captain's chair, and we're going to have David K. Johnston and Jefferson Graham along for the ride as well. So it's going to be another good one for Tuesday. But here we are on the After Party Live, and I got a great submission for a cave by Wes. So I'll show you pictures and video of a really cool cave in Europe. Hello to you, Yvonne. Love it. Thank you for being here. Hello, Ricky. Yeah. Oh, you guys are talking about the vegan troll. I saw that pop through. I didn't see anything that was harassing, so I didn't take the person down like I did a different person today. But you know, Heather says that vegan dude in the chat at the end of the last show was something else. Yeah, a lot of comments coming through, but did you think I should have zapped him, banned him from the show? Let me know in the comments what you think. Maybe I didn't handle it appropriately. I'm not sure, but I hope everyone had a really good weekend. Thank you for being here. And I have a lot to tell you about. First of all, this story that I found kind of offensive. You know, we're in what year is it? 2025? And we're still trying to convert indigenous tribes in the Amazon to Christianity. Do we not like unname places for people doing this, trying to shove their religion down the throat of someone else and, you know, doing bad things to them in the process? Come on. This is going on still in this day and age. Here we are again with people trying to go to the Amazon, to these places where there are tribes that really don't interact with modern humans. They keep to themselves. They do what they've been doing for hundreds and hundreds, if not longer, of years. And they have no interest in learning about the Bible or anything else. Now, those that are religious would say, well, we're saving them. We're bringing the word of God. We're doing the things that should be done. Just leave these people alone. They've been fine for thousands of years, and they'll be fine going forward. Just leave them be. Now we have word that there are missionaries in the Amazon accused of illegally giving gadgets to these isolated Amazon tribe members. The gadgets have recorded messages with the word of God. There are laws in Brazil that prohibit outsiders from contacting these people, these remote indigenous tribal folks. But some people cannot be deterred. They are compelled to spread the word of God. These Christian missionaries, they just won't quit. These plastic gadgets with pre-recorded religious messages have now been discovered in Amazon's Javari Valley, right near the border of Brazil and Peru. O Globo, this secretive project with alleged ties to multiple international evangelical organizations, is blamed for these gadgets being dumped in this area. What we know about Brazil and right along this border area, is home to the world's largest concentration of people that are called uncontacted, right? They're there, they keep to themselves. They don't want to talk to anyone else. These are very isolated indigenous communities. And there are about 100 tribal enclaves in the Amazon. The agency, this agency in Brazil, called the Fundação Nacional dos Povos Indígenas, National Foundation of the Indigenous Peoples, they've only been able to contact or confirm about 28 of these 100 tribes. And that's a good thing, because they say that the fewer of us contact them, limiting unsolicited contact is very, very important to their safety and their survival. Their populations are dwindling, and contact reduces the chance of tribes people contracting foreign pathogens, flu, measles, these types of things. They want us to leave them alone. It's not unusual for 50% of an isolated indigenous community to die within a year of first contact. So the problem is that maintaining this isolation is getting harder and harder because their area where they live is being encroached upon because of urban expansion, because of deforestation. And now we have the evangelical missionary organizations that are just determined that they are going to spread their religious beliefs, even though it's not allowed in this area. And they're getting more technical with it as well. They are giving out smartphone sized audio devices, at least they did to the Karubo people in the Javari Valley. These devices are solar powered, they come in a plastic case, they play a pre recorded Bible verse or more than one. They have inspirational sermons in multiple languages, including Portuguese and English. They are labeled on the outside as coming from In Touch Ministries, which is based in Atlanta. It's a Baptist church that does international outreach work. And these items are part of this organization's technology focused project. They call it Messenger Lab. They've been doing this since 2007. They say it provides free gospel gadgets to third parties who then distribute them to remote communities around the world. And the audio players are manufactured through this other company called Mega Voice. They provide durable solar-powered audio and video Bibles that make scripture accessible to people worldwide. The products also include FM transmitters and LED flashlights. No, keep your gadgetry to yourself. That's what we need. Plastic dumped in the Amazon. Please bring your plastic Bible messages to the people who don't want you to be there. Now, it's not clear who delivered these In Touch mega player voice things to the Karubo tribe members. But there are officials with groups like Survival International. These are advocates that are looking out for these folks. They say we're extremely concerned about evangelical missionaries approaching uncontacted peoples, no matter how they do it. That there is a sorry history of evangelical outreach endangering indigenous peoples because they bring disease for which these people have no immunity. They open the way for land grabbers and other criminals, and they erode the culture of these communities, by the way, which have been doing just fine for a really long time without you and your Bible. The folks at Survival International say forced contact, even indirect, can result in tragedy. And the presence of these plastic devices indicates that someone is violating the law and they have to stop it now. And of course, the ministry is not responding to all of this. But I'm just so annoyed that here we are. We should know better than this. And they can't stop doing these things and spreading their word. And so frustrating. I'm going to the chat, see what you guys have to think of this. Colleen says, it makes missionaries feel good about spreading the word, but it's really just trying to grab more power. Mindy says, these people are not interested in their Bible. Right. Ricky Aubert, religion destroys reason. Rude, says Mindy, keep your religion to yourselves. And that's the thing. You know, I don't mind if you're really religious. That's really good. Whatever floats your boat, whatever helps you survive in this world and be a happy person and, you know, love your life and whatever. Great. If that's you, you do you. But don't try to push it on me. And don't try to push it on the people on the Amazon. who really have no interest in this and no need for it. Dangerous for them. Wes says some of them are even hostile to outsiders as well, with good reason. Absolutely. Rev P says we must spread the word. They must be saved. He says Christians are insufferable. Maybe not all Christians. I'm sure there are good Christians out there. I saw one recently, I think in Texas, who was talking about the loss of life and the flooding there, and really had some lovely things to say. There are still people that believe and are true believers that don't just use the word of God when it suits them. But I'm sure these people think they're true believers, but they just don't get it. They just don't understand that maybe these people are doing mighty fine without them. Yeah, Nullifidian says those tribes bother no one. Why bother them? Agree. Well, thank you for the conversation. Josh says don't judge others who don't share your religion. Christians put a lid on it. Heather says Christianity has always been about stomping all over other people's boundaries. I know. My daughter was asked recently about whether she was religious or not. And she said, no, I wasn't really raised that way. And the person said, would you mind if I talk to you about God? And she said, actually, I would. I would mind. Yes, I would. But you know what? You have to respect other people. And I just think dropping plastic Bible verse gadgets in the middle of the Amazon is not respecting at all. Colleen writes, when a religion's tenets involve having more children and recruiting, they're just looking to increase numbers. Hamas basically forced women to have as many kids as possible. It's funny, you compare Hamas to Christianity. I know that Christians would say, how dare you compare one to the other? But really, I kind of agree with you. I think to me, it's all an origin story. It's all about, how we got here, where we're going at the other end of it. Isn't that what all religion is about? Answering these big questions. So to me, one origin story is the same as the next. I don't know. Rev getting a little racy today. I don't know. Luis bringing up the Crusades, Manifest Destiny, Salem witch trials, brought to you by organized religion. Thank you, Luis. Keeping it sane in here. Yeah. I saw something from Michael Reich. Yes, Texas is exactly the place where JC should show up on the day, and he would flip the F out. All right, we'll move on to another story, but I saw that and it just rubbed me the wrong way, and I wanted to bring it to you. I know we usually keep it happy here, but it's also about stories that we don't hear about that maybe are not front and center in the news because the Epstein files are taking center stage. But it's important to know that look what's going on in the Amazon as well. Hey, look what's going on in France. Apparently, they're cracking down on the naked nudie people. This French hotspot doesn't want tourists wearing their swimsuits into local beach shops. You get a little racy in there. Nobody wants to see what you got to offer. This town is along the Vendée coast. They say Vendée. It's on the Atlantic side of France, and they've introduced a new measure banning half-naked people from wandering around the town. The tourists were captured on video wandering through the streets in swimsuits or without shirts, and if they catch you doing it now, they'll fine you $175, 150 euros. This is according to the mayor of this town. Yannick Moreau is the name of the mayor. And the name of the town is Les Sables d'Olonne. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Les Sables d'Olonne. They say, listen, we have to draw a line somewhere because we've got these bikini ladies and these shirtless men that are wandering from the beach into the bakery trying to pick up their French bread. No, it's indecent behavior that develops summer after summer. So the mayor says it's time to remind clearly it's forbidden to walk around naked or in a swimsuit at Sables d'Olonne. A little outfit, please, they ask. And they'll fine you $175 if you don't have an outfit on. The people of the town are in big debate over this. Not everyone is loving it. Some say it's a question of respect for the locals who don't want to see people wandering around half naked nudie. But it's also, they say, a rule for hygiene, basic hygiene in the markets there and in the shops and in the streets. But the fine, people in this community aren't so sold on that. They say in Les Sables d'Olonne, respect doesn't go on holiday. They have this new campaign reminding visitors there are 7 miles of sandy beach available for your sunbathing and your swimwear, but the town itself demands a basic level of decorum. So suit up appropriately. The people in the town say, look, my parents are shopkeepers. Sometimes they have to ask the people to get dressed. This town is not the only one that has a dress code as well. There are other nearby towns that are fining you for wearing beach wear beyond designated areas. Authorities say it's part of an effort to preserve the elegance of the town. This is the town of Cassis. A slogan there equally pointed. They say, when going from beach to town, we get dressed again. Like treating the tourists like children. France is not the only country where they have to do this to get people to get dressed before they go into the restaurants and the markets. Malaga, Spain, they also have a fine. Theirs is more expensive, $870 for tourists walking around town in underwear or less. Remember, there were a lot of bachelorette parties and people were getting naked in that one. I think we did that story here as well. But now there are patrols on the streets of Sables d'Olonne where they're enforcing the dress code. There are uniformed officers stopping tourists, issuing fines, handing out warnings to people who don't have their clothes on. So the people in the town say, why are you so concerned about shirtless tourists? And you do something right away and you go patrol for these people and issue fines, but you can't do anything about a rise in violent crime? Like, should the focus be somewhere else? Yeah, I don't know. But don't go to France and think you can walk around half clothed. They're not having it. Rude. They don't want you. They don't want you to do it. They want you. They just want you to have your clothes on. Remember we talked about this the other day, this water monitor who got loose? You couldn't find him. Somebody's pet. Well, apparently this water monitor lizard that escaped has now crossed the state border into a whole different state. Yes, the water monitor had lived in Massachusetts and was spotted a week later crossing the state border in Connecticut. It's a 5-foot-long lizard named Goose who escaped his owner's home July 18th by jumping from a second-story window. So Goose gets free, and Goose is on the move. These monitor lizards are not legal to keep as pets in Massachusetts without a permit. Goose's owner did not have the required paperwork. Well, Goose is on the run. He was spotted on Friday in Thompson, Connecticut, about 5 miles from Webster. The animal, they say, is owned illegally, and it's important to call animal control as soon as there is a spotting so that they can capture it. They say they have a reptile specialist they're working with. So if you spot this reptile in Massachusetts or Connecticut or beyond, you're supposed to call animal control or the police department so that they can capture it safely. Goose is not just sitting around hanging out, not lazing around. Goose is moving fast. I don't know if you were following Nikki Maduro's vacation She kept posting pictures, and she was so excited to go to this place, Cedar Point. And for the fourth time, and luckily she didn't get caught on this because she did go on this ride. But for the fourth time in a month, a roller coaster called the Siren's Curse has stranded people on this ride. This is at Ohio's Cedar Point Amusement Park. The passengers of the Siren's Curse stranded temporarily for the fourth time since this ride opened at the end of June. It's the first tilt coaster in the United States, featuring a section of the track that disconnects from its starting position, turns 90 degrees, and attaches to a steep decline track. The park officials said the ride came to a stop mid-tilt on Tuesday. They say it's like a check engine light. It's okay, no worries. I'm sure if you're on the ride, it's a little bit more than no worries. They say the coaster's safety system performed as designed, the ride was restarted, and the guests continued upon their journey, and it reopened shortly after everyone got off the ride. But this Siren's Curse has stranded people on July 2nd, July 19th, June 28th, and now last week as well. No injuries, everybody's okay, but the passengers had to be escorted from this place. I have video of the people being taken off this ride, which again, I think it seems it's going to be pretty scary if you're the one that's on the ride, right? I mean, I'm not getting on the ride anyway, but here they are. Look at them all standing on that top of that roller coaster. Yeah. They seem to be in good spirits. You can hear the laughing there. But there they are walking along the tracks as they wait for someone to come get them. Looks like there's some guys in orange safety vests up there trying to keep people safe. Not the way they thought that ride would end, as they have to walk down and get off of it, being escorted to safety. Yeah. It doesn't look fun at all. So maybe if you're going to Cedar Point, skip the Siren's Curse? I don't know. Yeah. No thanks. That does not look fun to me. All right, we'll move forward. Did you know that, and they do this every year as far as the counting and the numbers of caregivers, and they know with recent numbers that the number of family caregivers has really gone up in the United States. The number of Americans caring for an older or disabled family member has jumped in the last 10 years. This is numbers from an AARP policy report. They say there's been a 45% increase in the number of family caregivers between 2015 and 2025. There are now 63 million Americans looking after an aging or ailing relative. Yeah. Overall, 1 in 4 Americans, 24%, is now a family caregiver. That's according to Caregiving in the U.S. 2025 report from AARP and the National Alliance on Caregiving. It's a really big number, they say, when you think about the individuals that are providing this care, that we know that family caregivers are doing higher intensity care as well. So they're doing more complicated tasks in addition to things like providing transportation or taking people to appointments. They're doing it for longer periods of time. And the reason they think is because we have aging baby boomers. Nearly half of the care recipients are 75 or older. Many face multiple chronic health conditions. And the report indicates that people are living longer. And because of that, they're getting sicker and living with illnesses that decades ago they might not have lived that long with, right? So now we're seeing people that are still in the home with very serious illnesses that need people to provide that care. And there's also been this rethinking in terms of the importance of caregiving from family members as well, not to just take people right to the care home. At least a lot of families are doing it that way. So they say even up until 2020, when they talked about someone being a family caregiver and recognizing the different things that they didn't associate that with a caregiving role. They were just being the daughter, or they were being the spouse, or they were doing the things that they were called to do. 70% of caregivers between the ages of 18 and 64 are juggling a full-time or part-time job with their care responsibilities as well. So trying to do it all. That's the way it is. Imagine being a family member who's working a full-time 40-hour-a-week job, and you have to provide transportation, and you have to give and manage heavy medication regimes, and you're having to do this while you're working, and it means there could be potential impacts to your work as well. So you might have to take work off more often. You might not be able to move up the ladder very well in your career because you have your focus is drawn elsewhere. Yeah. But that's what the way it is. I mean, I look at it and I think, would you want it any other way? Could you have it any other way? And no. I mean, right now I'm taking care of my mom who had a recent medical setback, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So they say it's stressful for people, though, that nearly two-thirds of family caregivers, or 64%, reported high emotional stress. Another 45% reported heavy physical strain. The folks at AARP say there are a lot of things that can be done to support caregivers. Federal and state tax credits to support their out-of-pocket expenses may be something that could be done. Also giving family caregivers training that they might need, that they, doing things you don't know how to do. So that could be helpful as well. One of the folks interviewed said, "My person has been in the hospital for several days, and when it comes time for them to be discharged, all of a sudden, the family caregiver becomes the most popular person in the room because they're going to be the one that is taking that person home. And now the caregiver has to become a master coordinator, arranging follow-ups with specialists, tracking new medications, coordinating insurance payments, all of these things. They're invisible things that family caregivers are having to face every day, in addition to working and caring for children." I don't know how different that is than it's always been. Maybe it's just happening more frequently now. Something that is changing, or that may change, I should say, our keyboard and mouse. Might not look like a keyboard and mouse. Might look like this little bracelety contraption you're seeing on the screen. Interesting, right? Meta is coming forward with this new vision of replacing your keyboard and your mouse with what they call a smart wristband. So you sit down at your computer, you strap on your smart wristband. They say it's the wrist key for the future of human computer interaction, that its engineers have created a gesture sensing wristband prototype. So all you would have to do is scoot the screen, we're moving on, right? They have detailed this in the scientific journal Nature. The wristband picks up on the tiny, barely perceptible movements of muscles at the wrist to read a variety of hand gestures, ranging from tapping the thumb against the fingertips to write out letters. The muscle reading technology is called surface electromyography. Meta thinks this wrist-worn device with this technology has the potential to overtake the keyboard now, the mouse, even the touch screen, as our primary way of interacting with our computers. I have another picture. You can see the hand with all the, muscle signals running up and down. That's what they're basing this on. That this is the way our body signals are sent. And so it becomes less robotic and more intuitive and more human than what we currently have. They also say it's more inclusive because it works by reading signals that are still present after spinal cord injuries and can be used by people with tremors who struggle with handheld devices as well. So they developed this wristband prototype in their Reality Labs unit. It focuses on virtual and augmented reality. Previously, this lab developed the Orion and Ray-Ban Meta glasses. And after previewing the wristband at the same time as the Orion project last year, they say the team has gone on to hone the prototype, getting it to the point where it can be used out of the box for simple gestures, despite differences in human physiology and behavior as well. They demonstrate that it can recognize gestures like tapping, swiping, and pinching. And Meta says this is the first high bandwidth neuromotor interface that generalizes across people. The wristband recognizes letters as the test subject handwrites them, right? Here's an M. The feature is calibrated to the individual user as well. And Meta is thinking that this is how that they'll be using this wristband would work in conjunction with a headset or the glasses like Orion, allowing users to carry out complex actions with an immersive digital environment. What do you think? Are you wearing the wrist? Sit down at your computer, put the wrist on? I could see people doing it. I mean, it's no different than, swiping your screen or tapping a mouse or whatever else. You got to move your Apple Watch to make room for your wrist uh, wrist device, computer device. It's fascinating. It's a future they've been exploring at Reality Labs for years. So this is not, they've known that, about this technology and they've been working on it. They say this is the key to unlocking the next paradigm shift in human-computer interaction. It works through metal contacts on the skin that detect your muscle activity and deep learning models that then decode those signals and transform them into computer inputs. The gesture-based system is similar to what can be achieved using a camera or controllers with acceleration sensors. But Meta says that these stop working if the line of sight is obscured, but theirs do not. It reminds me of the I don't know if you ever saw NCIS LA. A few years ago this show was on, and the person working the massive computer screen talking about a crime would wave their hand and the screens would change or things would come up, and it was all done with hand gestures. That's kind of what this reminds me of. The Meta says it's convenient, simple, and natural to use, and it works in situations where alternatives like voice interactions may be impractical or undesirable, like sending a private message out in public. They say they are going to be releasing more than 100 hours of their recordings using this technology to the scientific community in hopes of accelerating research in the field. They're now trying to design rules and best practices that they recommend for hardware, data requirements, and modeling. So, it's kind of interesting. I think there is a video to show you, and this is fascinating enough that since it's our future, we might want to take a little look-see. Let me take the picture down, and I'll show you what they're doing with the video. Here it is.
At Meta Reality Labs, we've been developing a non-invasive neuromotor interface that enables diverse forms of computer interaction for novel users. The interface is easily donned and compatible with a broad range of user anatomies. It senses the intricate patterns of surface electromyogram signals produced by the muscles in the forearm during movement. Deep learning models trained on large corpora of consenting participants enable multiple interactions, for instance, 1D continuous navigation. Recognition of discrete thumb swipe and finger tap gestures. And text entry using handwriting. We believe this is the first high bandwidth neuromotor interface that generalizes across people.
There it is. So that's our future. That's what we have to look forward to. Okay, right. Let's move forward and take a look at the lotto of the day. We're moving on. This forgetful husband leads a South Carolina woman to a $500,000 lottery win. Yep. This woman says her husband forgot to buy her lottery ticket, so she had to go to the store herself. She says she made a trip to the 357 Ready Mart because her husband forgot to buy the lottery tickets that she asked him to buy. Rude. She said, I was standing in line and these bright, shiny, glittery tickets just caught my eye. She said, I bought 3 of them. The first 2 Money Madness Extra Play tickets were not winners, but the third one earned her $500,000. She said, I felt like when Jed Clampett discovered his bubbling crude. She's making plans for her newfound cash. She says, I'll have a little fun, I'll take some trips, and that retirement will come sooner rather than later. Good thing for the forgetful husband. This is kind of creepy. Underneath an ice cream store, they find the grave of a medieval knight. Been sitting under the ice cream shop for a really long time. The ice cream shop was being razed. They had moved the ice cream store in Gdansk, this tourist destination on the Baltic coast in northern Poland. And they were excavating the site of this ice cream shop that had been there since 1962. But recently, the ice cream store moved to a new location, and the plot that used to have the ice cream shop on it was sold to developers. And they were required to bring in archaeologists before they could start construction. And this property is 10,700 square feet. And it's right in the middle of the historic city center in Gdansk. The researchers from this Polish archaeology company have now been excavating this site since 2023. Last year, they say they unearthed the remains of a large wooden church built in the shape of a Greek cross. They think it was built in 1140, which would make it the oldest known church in all of Gdansk. They also discovered small cottages that date to the 12th and 13th centuries. They found a medieval cemetery with nearly 300 graves, 8 of them covered with tombstones, which suggest that the people that were buried there were some type of elite society member in Gdansk of the day. The tombstones, one of them, found on July 8th, featured a carving of a knight wearing a helmet and chainmail and carrying a shield and sword. Researchers suspect it was made of limestone that came from the Swedish island of Gotland at some point during the 13th or 14th centuries. They say the tombstone is surprisingly well preserved, considering it was made from soft limestone and buried for centuries. Very rare in Poland, and at the time, they would have been made for very important people. Underneath the slab, archaeologists found a human skeleton surrounded by 23 field stones arranged to form a rectangle. Based on the remains, archaeologists say it was a man, probably at least 40 years old, with a strong build, probably stood about 5'6", maybe 5'9", somewhere in between there, which was about average for men living in this area during the Middle Ages. Although they found no grave goods, like the chainmail and the helmet weren't there, all available evidence suggests the deceased was a person of high social standing, most likely a knight or a commander held in particularly high esteem and respect. For now, the knight's journey is a mystery, but they are hoping that the tombstone and the skeleton will offer up more clues about who he was, what he did, why he was there. The tombstone was cracked and taken in 4 pieces to the Archaeological Museum in Gdansk, where experts are now working to conserve it and create possibly a 3D model of the slab as well, as they try to figure out more about this man, which they say they'll be sharing in the coming year. Here's kind of a cool story. I love this one. This is a story about a reptile, well, a fossil of a reptile that had a sail on its back. Yeah, 247 million-year-old fossil from a German natural history museum shows the secrets of Mirasaura. They think the sail you see on its back was used by this creature to communicate. Paleontologists, they say, are used to finding bones and broken teeth, trying to put the pieces together here to figure out what life looked like for these animals. This one is a 247 million-year-old reptile that may demonstrate how peculiar scaly animals were becoming after the mass extinction. This is a small skeleton with a crest that was found at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History, preserved in tan stone. This is a fossil of the Mirasaura, and it included the ancient reptile's skeleton and a feather-like fan that jutted out from this animal's back. And you can see, I don't know if you see the picture? Hopefully it's big enough. You can see this feather-like fan that came out. That's the fossil of the sail. Here's a rendering of what it was supposed to look like. The fossil is both resolving what they say as a Triassic enigma, raising the possibility that prehistoric reptiles looked even weirder than their bones suggest they did. The Mirasaura had been seen before, but no one was quite sure why it had these long, thin structures jutting out from its spine, or what kind of reptile it was. They didn't know that either. But the discovery of this Mirasaura in the museum is finally offering a solution. They say that it was a kind of an oddball for a lot of years, and now they understand much more about it. Interestingly, this fossil form was discovered in 1939 when a paleontologist was searching the rocks of northeastern France for new fossils and found multiple, but they just didn't know what the fossils represented. This museum of natural history in Stuttgart, Germany, acquired those fossils in 2019, and experts took a closer look and realized the fossils represented a really unique reptile with a sail back, Mirasaura, they call it. They say it was amazing that this discovery was made from an 80-year-old specimen that was already in a museum. The fossil reveals what must have been an extraordinary creature. That it had prominent sail-like structures on its back, with anatomical hallmarks of a bizarre group of reptiles called drepanosaurs. Some call them monkey lizards. They only lived during the Triassic between 201 million and 252 million years ago, and they had this really weird combination of features. Their skulls long, almost bird-like, chameleon-like bodies, and appendages that suggest they were most at home in the trees. Some species even had a claw at the end of their tail. And now they know they had this elaborate structure on their back as well. Feather-like sail on their back. Yep. Pretty cool. And it's tall. The sail of the Mirasaura, about as tall as the animal's length from its snout to its hips. Really, really tall. Not used to fly. They think it was used to communicate. That's what they think that the Mirasaura did with it. So interesting. All right, we'll move forward because I do want to make sure that we have time for the lotto of the day. Here's a close-up of that creature, by the way. Cool sail on its back, huh? All right, let's go to the Hide in Your Cave Monday submission from Wes today. And we are going to Europe, where Wes sends me a video, and I'm super excited to show it to you, about this really interesting cave, the Wim Hole. And I have some information to share with you. Thanks, Wes, by the way, for submitting this. If you have one that you want to share with me, please email me. There's the address, kim@theafterparty.live. If you would like to go somewhere specific to travel tomorrow for Travel Tuesday, or you want me to showcase waterfalls on Wednesday, kim@theafterparty.live is the place. All right. And here we go. Wes also sent pictures and video. Thanks, Wes. I appreciate that. He was very thorough. And here's what it looks like. Hold on, let me take down this picture. All right. This is a really cool cave that you get on a boat to see. And here is, I might have to get rid of the music, but here's what it looks like. People are going on this boat to see what it looks like in here. It's wonderful. All right, so this is the Wim Hole. It's a natural spring cave in Germany, next door to a restaurant that Wes's friends who live close to this like to go to a lot. Wes says we always end up here at least 1 or 2 times per visit. The cave is accessible only by water, and you travel about 230 feet inside this cave. It's much larger, but he says that part is all underwater. He says he's visited multiple times, but only been in the cave once. It's a gorgeous area in the Swabian Alps. About the 10-minute mark of this video, he said the restaurant and beer garden that they go to is featured. It's called Gasthof Friedrichshole, Friedrich's Cave Guest House. Interesting that it's called Friedrich's Cave, but it's also called Wim Hole or Wim Cave. Look how pretty that water is. Gorgeous. Friedrich apparently is what you say if you want to impress the locals. The Hola, yeah, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's known historically as Friedrich's Hole. It's a karst spring cave near this small village of Hayingen, the only water cave in Germany that you can explore by boat. The cave sits at the source of the Zweifalter Ach River, and it's part of a large underground river system. The records on this cave go back to 1477, but they say the locals knew it was there long before that. It was named after royalty. In 1803, King Friedrich I of Württemberg visited this cave, and since then it's been called the Friedrich's Hole in his honor. It's been explored to a depth of 1,200 meters, but most of it is underwater and most of it is really mysterious. The divers have mapped out several dangerous passages, so this is not for people just messing around. It's been a tourist hotspot since the early 20th century. The boats let visitors guide through the entrance chamber and about 70 meters into the cave, where the ceiling then rises dramatically and the water glows emerald green. Pretty. So what they mean when they say a karst spring cave is that it was formed by water dissolving limestone over millions of years, and it's still an active spring. More than 1,200 liters of water per second gush out, feeding the nearby river as well. So it's used for all kinds of fun stuff, including beer hiking events. One of the few places in the world where you can say, I went spelunking and had a beer at a monastery afterward. The name Friedrich's Hole still at the neighboring Gasthof Friedrich's Hole restaurant, where they serve wild boar and local beer. But here they are in the boats going along into this water cave. This spring, underground spring. Super cool. Very interesting video. I'm so glad you sent it, Wes. I want to see the restaurant as well, but I'm fascinated by the glow of the water. Looks like there's spots where you can see sunlight outside as well. All right, we'll scroll a little in. You can see the rocks underneath the water. It's almost like a Disney ride, but not. Lots of sunroof, some sunlight coming in through the sunroof there on the top. Pretty cool. And there they are going back out in the boat, out the entrance of the cave. I think that's worth doing, Wes. I think it's cool that you've done this so many times. I love it. And here is the restaurant where you can go have a beer, hang out. Looks like a little visitor center there as well. What a picturesque place. Just beautiful. I feel like I'm in Germany looking at these pictures. And there's the river. Looks like there's the outside beer garden. Pretty fun. Yep. Wow. What a great place to go. I love this. I'll hide in that hole any day. Absolutely. They've got some umbrellas outside. Look at the people drinking their beer. This is the Gasthof Friedrichshole. It looks wonderful. The style of building looks very German. And it looks like they've got space for a lot of people out there. Really fun. So that's the video. And I will show you some of the pictures that Wes sent in as well, including this. Look at the color of that water. So pretty. Really, really nice. And then here's the picture of where you get onto the boat to go into Friedrichshole. Looks like there's barely enough room for the boat to get in. But how fun is that? And that is Hide in Your Cave Monday. Wes, thank you for the submission. I'm sorry if I messed up any of the names. I know that I did. But what a great place to visit. That looks really, really cool. All right. Thank you everyone for being here, and I will see you tomorrow on the Mark Thompson Show at 11. Again, Michael Schur in the captain's chair. We've got David K. Johnston coming through and Jefferson Graham coming through. So it's going to be a really great show. And I hope that you make today a great one. Whatever's left of it, make it the very best you can. And I will see you back here on the YouTube tomorrow.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.